Not the Chris Brown you see dancing in sold-out arenas. Not the cocky, confident star the world has watched for years. This Chris was different. He walked slowly, every step echoing like a warning through the polished floors. His face? Haunted, like he had been holding a secret that was clawing at his chest, begging to come out. He didn't look at the judge, he didn't glance at the jury, and he definitely didn't spare a second for Diddy, who sat across the room at his defense table like a stone figure, arms crossed, eyes cold, a presence so heavy it sucked the air from the room. Chris moved to the witness stand like he was walking into battle, and before anyone could even prompt him, he raised his right hand and said it. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth. His voice was deep, but underneath that bass was a tremor, a crack in the superstar's shell. And then he sat down, not waiting for a single question, just leaned into the mic and dropped the bomb. I was there that night. You could feel the entire room shift, audibly. Gasps, murmurs, hands flying to mouths. The judge raised a finger for silence, but it was already too late. The energy had changed. Chris's eyes scanned the room, his voice calm but heavy, like every word cost him a piece of his soul. I saw things I wish I hadn't. Things I didn't talk about for years because I thought staying silent would protect me. Then he turned, looked straight at Diddy, but it didn't protect anybody, least of all the people he hurt. The air thickened. Chris grabbed the edges of the wooden witness box like he needed to hold on to something, anything, to keep from unraveling. Diddy threw parties that weren't just parties. These weren't celebrations or music industry hangouts. These were curated, controlled events. Invitations weren't casual. If you got one, it meant Diddy wanted you there. If you didn't, you were nothing. He leaned closer, voice lowering. And the women he brought in, most of them weren't just there to vibe, they were hand-picked to play a role. Some didn't even realize it until it was too late. The courtroom was frozen in time. Chris didn't stop. I saw girls come in with their boyfriends, their agents, their teams, but by the end of the night, they were gone, pulled into back rooms. Rooms only Diddy had the keys to. No one asked questions about those rooms. No one dared. He paused. You could see the weight pressing down on him. There was this one night, he said, I'll never forget her. She was new, young, clearly in a relationship. She came with her boyfriend. He was just excited to be there. But at some point in the night, she disappeared. His voice cracked just slightly. I saw it happen. I saw Diddy lean in, whisper something to her. Then he nodded to one of his guys. She looked hesitant, scared even, but she followed, like she didn't think she had a choice. That was the last time she was seen that night. Her boyfriend, left alone, lost, no answers. That wasn't the first time, Chris continued, and it wasn't the last. He said Diddy had a way of making you feel like saying no to him was saying no to your whole future. He was the gatekeeper. Music, modeling, exposure, access. He held the keys. And he knew it. The jury didn't move. Pens dropped, eyes locked. And Chris, he kept going. Like the dam had finally broken. There's something about that house, he said. Diddy's mansion. You walk in and the air changes. You don't feel free, you feel watched. Like you've stepped into someone else's fantasy and your only job is to perform. He described the rooms, the layout, the people, the whispers, the fear masked as luxury. And then he dropped the name of the one room that made everyone in that courtroom shudder. The velvet room, not because of the decor, but because once you entered, it all went quiet, murmurs, footsteps, breathing. No music, no laughter, just power. That's where the real things happen, Chris said, and only a few ever got to see it. I was one of them. He told the jury about another girl. She was smart, talented, didn't belong there. She had just signed to a label Diddy was connected to. He took interest in her, the kind of interest he always took in girls like that. Chris said she looked uncomfortable the entire time, checking her phone, looking over her shoulder, like she was trying to find a way out, but they had already taken her phone. That was rule number 1, no phones. He said it was for privacy. But we all knew the truth. It wasn't privacy, it was control. Chris's voice dropped again. I asked a guard where she was. He said, she's with Mr. Combs now. And every time someone said that, Chris said, it was like they were trying to erase whatever concern you had. Like those words were supposed to mean everything was fine, but it never was. He went on, girls would enter that velvet room, and they would come out different. Some cried, some disappeared, some smiled like nothing happened, but they never showed up to another party again. Then he looked right at the jury, eyes burning. I knew what was happening. We all did. And none of them said a thing. We didn't speak up because we were scared, afraid of losing everything, afraid of what would happen if we became the one who talked. That was Diddy's power. He didn't have to yell, he didn't need to threaten, he just had to raise an eyebrow, give a nod, and entire careers vanished. Chris talked about artists who walked into that house full of dreams and walked out looking like ghosts. Girls who wanted a shot at fame, who just wanted to be seen, who thought maybe, just maybe, this party could change their life. And it did, but not in the way they imagined. Chris's voice began to quiver, not out of weakness, but from the weight of truth finally escaping his chest after years of silence. I remember this one girl in a gold dress, he said, voice distant like he was replaying every detail in his mind. She wasn't loud, wasn't wild, but she looked terrified. She came with a small group of girls all trying to break into modeling. They didn't even get a formal invite. Just a vague text, show up looking right, you might get in. And they did. Chris locked eyes with her briefly across the room. Her smile, it wasn't joy, it was a silent cry. That tight, pleading expression that screamed, please see me, please say something's wrong. I walked over, asked if she was okay. Before she could answer, one of Diddy's guys slid between us like clockwork. He's needed backstage, they told him. Mr. Combs wants to speak with her, and just like that, she vanished. 1 minute she was there, next minute, gone. The next morning, her purse was still there, but her friends weren't. They weren't at the hotel. They weren't online. It was like someone hit delete. Chris took a breath. The courtroom was still locked in silence, as if even air refused to move. There was always a code, he said. You don't ask, you don't interfere, you keep showing up, or you don't get invited back. That was Diddy's grip. No loud threats, no blackmail, just silence and access. Access to fame, access to money, access to the life. You wanted the door to stay open, you shut your mouth. Chris's voice dropped even lower now. I don't know where that girl is today. Maybe she's okay, maybe she made it out, but the fact that I even have to say maybe, that tells you everything. He looked up, staring straight into Diddy's face. And for the first time, Diddy looked back. Two men. One testifying, one accused. The space between them filled with years of secrets. Chris didn't blink. There was a night in Vegas, he continued. That house at the Palms. Diddy flew people in from all over. Paris, LA, New York. Luxury everywhere. Designer bags, flashing lights, loud music. But beneath the glamour, same pattern. Women were led into rooms. Security stood at the doors. Some corners were too quiet. He was looking for a friend that night. She'd texted him, I'm not feeling good. Gonna step out for a bit. She never came back. I checked the halls, the lounges, nothing. I tried the doors that were usually off limits. A guard stopped me and said, you don't need to go in there. Mr. Combs is busy. Chris's fists clenched. I waited an hour. Texted her. No response. The next day, her flight changed, her number disconnected, her Instagram deleted. He was told she moved to Europe. But it didn't make sense. She had shows in Miami. She had press. And then someone whispered she was told to disappear. For her own good, Chris leaned in. You tell me, what does for her own good even mean? The jury flinched. He was done tiptoeing. Chris's voice turned sharp, precise. The worst part? I thought if I just stayed neutral, I wasn't part of the problem. But silence is a choice. And in that world, silence was loyalty. And I was loyal. Not to Diddy, but to fear. He took another breath. Slower this time. Measured. This isn't about parties, he said. This is about a man who turned power into a weapon, who twisted dreams into cages. And we all watched. He described the nights like choreography. The girls showed up first, dressed a certain way. Some were flown in, some were local, all were handpicked. It started with flirting, dancing, champagne. But as the night got later, the lights dimmed, cameras disappeared, rooms filled with silence, and Diddy always at the center. He talked about one night in New York, an after party at one of Diddy's penthouses. I didn't want to go, had a bad feeling, but my label said my name was already on the list, that it was important I show up, so he went. And what I saw haunted me. Girls who didn't even speak English. One said she flew in from Brazil that morning. When Chris asked who invited her, she looked around and whispered, his man with the gold watch. Later that night, Chris found her crying in the hallway. One shoe missing, makeup smudged, eyes red. He reached out to ask if she was okay. A security guy blocked him. She's good. Don't worry. Chris stared into her eyes. All he saw was panic. Then they dragged her into the elevator. He never saw her again. I walked away. I poured another drink. Pretended I didn't see. Because I didn't want to be the one Diddy decided wasn't welcome anymore. Chris's voice cracked. There were others like me, people who saw things, heard things, felt something was off, but we buried it. Deep, under comfort, under clout, under fear. Because in Diddy's world, there was no halfway. You were in or you were out. And if you were out, you were done. Chris's eyes grew glassy, but he never looked away. I used to think the worst thing was what happened behind those doors, he said. Now I realize the worst thing was how many people knew and stayed silent. People who saw the tears, heard the whispers, knew someone was missing, and still smiled for the cameras, still posted party pics, still said, "Thanks for the invite, Puff." This isn't about gossip, Chris said. This is about a system. A machine. One man built it, the rest of us let it grow. And I'm done. He stood up straighter now. Done protecting diamonds that were bought with silence. Done guarding secrets that didn't belong to him. I remember the night that changed everything for me. It wasn't Diddy's birthday. It wasn't even his party. But once he walked in, it became his show. Music changed, lights dimmed, girls rushed to his section like magnets. Chris was watching from the other side of the lounge when he saw her. A girl, young, too young, standing there like she didn't know where to go. She was with a group of models, clearly new, clearly scared. And then it happened. Diddy spotted her. One of his assistants approached, whispered something in her ear. She looked confused, then terrified, and then she was taken. Not through the crowd, around it, toward the tinted glass hallway. Chris's jaw clenched. She didn't come back. His voice dropped, nearly a whisper now. That's when I knew. This wasn't about parties. It was about prey. Diddy wasn't just hosting, he was hunting. He was hunting.